Venues that we're hosting and we're working with are very close friends. Like South Philadelphia in particular is sort of kind of like its own community, and it's sort of been homegrown for a very long time. So it's very close knit, and people have been pissed off and finding ways around the government for decades down here. So.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, home for anarchy on the internet. I have three guests coming on. I think it's the first time I've ever had three at one time. It's the three founders of Anarchadelphia. And as you may know, I've been speaking at, of course, Anarchapulco, and then Anarcha Portugal, and then this year, Anarchazona in Arizona. And I actually just got back from Anarchavegas, where I bumped into some of them. I didn't even see some of them. That's how crazy of a weekend it was. And now Anarchadelphia is coming up. So I'm thinking here, I'm going to be like the Rolling Stones soon. I'm going to just be on a permanent anarchy tour, going to anarchy conferences. It's starting to look that way, but Anarchadelphia looks great. So we have the three founders coming on. We're going to talk about that and whatever else comes to mind. And so we have Carmen Karanji and Sonny Mazzone coming in from one location, and then Pat Leach from another location. And we'll just start it off with you, Carmen. We'll just ask you all briefly before we get started, how did you become an anarchist?
Well, when I found out that jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams and buildings in New York went down by means of which it could not be explained by alternative media, that's when I sort of realized that, if they have that much power, we probably shouldn't have that at all. That's pretty much the turning point for me once I realized about the false flags.
Yeah, I would say for myself, 9/11 was definitely a big part of sort of a waking up process. When I started to realize what really happened compared to what they said happened, I just started going down the rabbit hole after that. So we'll go to you, Sonny. How did you become an anarchist?
Honestly, and this isn't even really pandering, but in Acapulco. I took the scenic route to anarchism. I mean, I started pretty far on the left, like supporting Bernie Sanders and socialist policies, and ended up pretty much here. And when I decided to really take the step is when I went to Anarchapulco in 2018 and met, I made some of the best connections in my life, and really started experimenting with the idea that there is an alternative. And I kind of really fully made the turn from like a Ron Paul libertarian, believing the work within the state, to actually believing there was an alternative altogether. So that's my story.
That's great, and that just goes to show why these events are kind of important. So many people, I know every year at Anarchapulco, there's always at least a few that I read on Facebook afterwards. They're like, I wasn't a full anarchist when I went there, but I was starting to lean that way. And then after I hung out with like 2,000 of the coolest people in the world, and actually heard what they had to say, it really does make a difference. So in so many ways we can make a difference, whether it's through podcasts or writing or even just in your day-to-day life, just talking to people or just how you act in your day-to-day life. But these conferences are quite important as well, so it's good to see there's more of them. So we'll go to you, Pat, for the last one. Pat Leach, how did you become an anarchist?
Oh, I just got sick of being a slave, man. I mean, it was like a 20-year process. I'd say started out with like religion, and then like not wanting to go to public schools, and then like drug addiction, and then getting in trouble and having legal issues and being a victim of the state for that long, and then basically like what Sonny said, meeting up with these people and coming to conferences like yours that really opened my eyes up to this alternative community.
That's great. And yeah, again, just to reemphasize, it is, I heard from even people at what was the last one, Anarchavegas, I can't even keep up, that some people brought their husbands and wives who weren't anarchists at all. And after meeting a lot of people and hearing a lot of what people had to say, I heard that a lot of their spouses are at least quite open to it now. And, I think I saw someone, I forget his name, he's quite popular podcaster, and he was talking about Anarchapulco with Charlie Robinson, who attended last year, and they were saying that some people might think it's just a bunch of people with mohawks and black T-shirts, and we're going to burn everything down. And then you go to a lot of these things, and you find it's almost quite the opposite. It's a lot of people who are very uplifting, very nice, very optimistic, very intelligent in general, and we don't want to burn things down, so to speak. I don't think that would even do anything anyway, right? Like when we heard about this invade alien, what is it, Area 51 or whatever it is?
Storm Area 51.
A bunch of people messaged me and they said, we should take over the Federal Reserve building. And I'm like, there's nothing in there but a bunch of Keynesian economists writing up just garbage economics papers. Like, there's nothing to take over. So, even if you burnt down the White House, they would just move it to another location. Even if you killed all the politicians, I'm not saying we should, but even if you did, there'd be new ones. They just all unless we can change people's minds and get them to be more conscious about what's actually going on, there really isn't much hope. But I'm starting to see a lot of hope, especially with all these new conferences popping up. So who came up with the original idea for Anarchadelphia?
I guess we kind of came from going to Steamfest and your conference, us meeting, and then starting the channel, and then we decided to go to Steamfest. And when we saw, there was a very different atmosphere with your conference and Steamfest. There's community there. I've been in Consensus and other blockchain events, and it's just like a lot of suits, and money, and hustlers. But then we were just like, we have to do this on our own. This is a movement. And then all of a sudden, Anarchazona came about, and Anarchavegas out of nowhere. So this is like a growing movement.
It's really important to have these events, and we've kind of gotten some blowback from the community because they kind of view us as like profiteering. And our point is that it actually changed all three of our lives to be in a place where we could talk to a human being and about these things that
and like touch them.
Yeah, that otherwise you were just screaming into our monitors about. And you can some people call it a book club. I like to call it a circle jerk because it's the same people in the same chat rooms talking about the same things. You don't change minds that way. And you don't really forge a true community without actually having some interpersonal connections. And that's something that Anarchapulco, Anarchavegas, it does in spades. It really facilitates that an actual community that seems real and tangible and isn't just a virtual space online.
Yeah, I've heard this profiteering angle from a couple people, usually kind of like sort of communist-leaning type of people. Yeah. I'll tell you guys right now, in case you have any sort of wrong ideas in your head, you're not going to get rich throwing this conference.
That's the irony is too. If I was going to profiteer, there'd be a few more lucrative markets I would try to get into. Some other businesses other than talk to one person that's ever run a conference. No one never says it's an easy get-rich-quick scheme. Yeah. So, we're clearly in it for the right reasons anyway.
And I would. What's that?
We met at your conference.
We actually have it on video. On video, the moment that me and Carmen, me and Carmen know each other for 15 years, but we met Pat in the hallways of the Princess, and we have it on video. We were kind of like.
Yeah, he was just filming. Just crazy. And he caught it.
So was he. We just walked into each other, and that's where it happened. You can actually check the video on our homepage of our website, thestateofanarchy.com. You're actually in it too.
That's great. And yeah, I've had a number of businesses in my life, and I've never ran a restaurant, but I have a feeling that's a really tough business to run. And a lot of people warn me. I know a lot of conference people because I've been involved in things where I've spoken at conferences many times in the past, and even just talking to them, I'm thinking about starting a conference. They're like, don't. It's a ton of work, and you could, I guess you could make quite a bit of money. Like for example, what are some of those big ones, those big computer conferences with like 100,000. Yeah,
like
I'm sure those guys make a ton of money.
Consensus made like $10 million in 2018. They were charging $1,800, $2,500 a ticket, and they got like a couple thousand people.
Yeah, so you can make money with conferences, but I haven't been getting rich off of Acapulco. I think we broke even last year, and it's looking like even if we have, I expect possibly up to 3,000 next year, that already we've spent so much money on speakers. We haven't announced any yet. Once you hear the speakers, you understand why we're spending so much money. But, I don't know what you guys maybe can comment on it, but I'm not in this for the money. I'm in it because I think it's important to do. This is, the Dollar Vigilante is another business I have, and even that I'm not in it just for the money, but that's where I make a fair amount of my money. But I never started in Acapulco with let's get rich off of anarchists sort of a thing.
Well, I think if money was any of our primary concerns, we wouldn't have gotten into the anarchist media niche. That's not exactly the most lucrative market. But again,
considering that it's censored nonstop by every social media platform.
But at the same time, I really, I kind of get a little bit argumentative. I make no qualms about attempting to make a profit on things. I mean, I feel like anything I've ever done, I've done honestly. I've never robbed anyone. No one ever, accused me of being a shyster. So if I made in any endeavor, and I get a little bit of defensive when we talk to these kind of, I guess, communist-leaning anarchists or whatever they would, I guess, define themselves as, like. But I don't think
anti-money anarchists.
I don't think you, me, Carmen, Pat, any of us should apologize to also like to make a living doing it. I mean, I don't want to be a starving artist. I would like to be a, full artist.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. It's kind of funny too because Anarchapoca quite often says it's an ANCAP conference, a narco-capitalist conference. So to have a few people saying you're just trying to make a buck, it's like, well, we're anarcho-capitalists. Like, we're not trying to lose money, that's for sure.
Right.
But it's kind of funny of all people to attack ANCAPs for trying to make a little bit of money.
That's funny.
And I like how you always talk about how like money is essentially just energy at the end of the day, and that's really all we're doing is flowing energy back and forth and kind of creating a river ecosystem,
Yeah, and so, how's it been going for you guys so far? I know you're still a few months away. It's going September 13th to 15th, so less than 2 months now. You'll find the time flies now really quick. Speaking to Aaron, and it was mostly Aaron who really was, there's Aaron and Kingsley and Yakov and a little bit Josh Sigurdsson, but Aaron really was running the show, and she told me a few days before the conference, she cuddled up in bed into like a ball and couldn't get out of bed. Because she was so worried about everything, and I'm sure she's still in bed afterwards. For me personally, after Narcopoco, I have to spend minimum 1 week in bed. It's that exhausting. But so far, how's it been for you guys? It looks like you've got a great lineup and everything. So, but how's it been so far?
We did all the stressing back in March.
Yeah, we got that out of the way. All the crazy nights in bed.
We worked our asses off, and we're in good shape. We're real happy with where we're at. Got a lot of buzz, and we're gonna throw one hell of a party, man.
Yeah, we got people from 6 countries coming already, so that's great. Yep. So we're excited that we're international. That's kind of the movement should be international, personally.
That's not even counting like Mexico with you or other speakers from other countries. It's attendees.
Yeah, I'm always amazed in Acapulco. I think we tried to look up like how many different countries came. I think it's over 50 or something. Like, it's pretty amazing. Whoa. It's a very international sort of a thing, and. So that's great. Do you guys, are you open to telling us how many tickets you've sold so far, or is that private information? Either way is fine with me.
I'd say that's private information.
Okay. Is it going fairly well, though? I've seen quite a bit of buzz about it.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely confident. We actually are kind of like looking into expanding the venue a little bit because it does look like we're going to hit that sellout mark. So that's pretty exciting.
Wow. That's great. And just so you guys know, there's usually a lot of sort of last-minute signups. The very first in Acapulco, I barely even did it because I thought it was just a crazy idea. Throwing an anarchist conference like 6 years ago, there wasn't that many anarchists back then, like really. We're talking hundreds, maybe thousands, not millions like today. And then doing it in the third most dangerous city in the world, according to the CIA, Acapulco. It was just a crazy idea. I do those sometimes. And I put up a website, and we really had maybe 40 or 50 people sign up a week before. So like a week before, we had 40 or 50 people, and I was like, oh man, I'm so embarrassed. These people are going to come all this way. There's going to be hardly anyone here. But at the last minute, another 100 just showed up. So just to let you guys know that is possible. A lot of people don't sign up to the last minute. So what do you want to talk about with the conference? Do you want to talk about some of the speakers? What do you think's most interesting about the conference?
Well, one thing that I actually am really excited about is that we're trying to have a again, we keep talking about how some of the best parts of these conferences aren't just the amazing speakers, which goes without saying, but it's also like the mingling in the hallways, the 45-minute impromptu debates about borders or whatever have you. I mean, it's the fact that there's the interactivity, and a lot of people like myself and Carmen included. We came there to. We also felt like we had something to say and kind of like aspired to maybe be on a stage of our own in a way. So we want to let the audience kind of engage. We're having registration. We're going to have a couple blocks each day for people in the audience. Maybe register for a 3-5 minute kind of lightning round and try to get a couple people up there. Maybe there is somebody that we aren't aware of that really has a message that deserves to be put out there. So that's something that we kind of just thought of within the last couple of weeks and are working on implementing, but that's probably what I'm most excited about too.
Yeah, that's cool. We're going to give those people a shout, and then I know, Jeff, you're looking forward to this. We got something going on pretty much every night afterwards. We got the first night we have sort of like a rap party. Danny Quest and the Freenauts, I think, are coming through, and we're gonna open up the floor. You know what I mean? You'll probably spit a few raps as you do so well. And then the next day we're doing like sort of like a full moon event night. That's gonna be more of like sort of like, you know, sort of like next dimensional. Like think like the scene from The Matrix.
Deep house, trap, dubstep.
Yeah. And then the final day after, we kind of wrap up a little early on Sunday, give everybody a chance to relax, and we head over during the daytime to this pro skate competition that we kind of got organized with this like band of skaters that like run this anarchist skate park in South Philly right near the thing. So that's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be like pro skaters going ham for like 6 hours, and then after that we're gonna turn it into a concert venue to close the event out. So it's gonna be a lot of fun as well. It's very informative and very enriching to people's lives and perspectives.
Yeah,
we're also going to premiere Mark Passio's natural law documentary, which it's crazy how we ended up working with him. But
it had everything to do with Anarchapulco. We met Mark Passio at the Speakers Gala dinner at Anarchapulco 2018. That's where it all came.
Do you know he drove down?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
He doesn't fly, so he drove all the way from like Philly to Acapulco, which is crazy.
Thankfully, he's 3 blocks away.
Yeah, he lives 3 blocks away, and we met him that's our dog. But the first time we met him, he was complaining about the TSA and cursing, and he was eating fish, just commiserating over the TSA. That's how we got our connection with him to the dinner we actually snuck into. By the way, I guess we could say that
now. You anarchists,
you bastards.
Yeah, well, you definitely, if you know me very well, I'll be at most of the parties. That's my favorite places to hang out.
We're going to keep our eye on you, Jeff. We're going to have people watching you.
Well, like a lot of people don't realize, well, everyone's different, right? But that Anarchavegas was really hard for me because 4 days before that, all 4 days was Freedom Fest, which isn't an anarchist conference. It's more like a liberty conference, but barely. And I was speaking like every day. I'm doing interviews. So I was actually so exhausted by the time Anarchavegas came around. And of course, there's lots of parties every night, even at Freedom Fest as well. So like these things just take a lot out of me. I think a lot of people, I've met some people, they're like, oh, when I speak, it gives me so much energy. I love it. And I'm like, I don't love it at all. Like, it's like I'll do it because I think I have to, but it's not what I like to do it. And then going around and speaking to so many people, I guess I must be what they call an introvert, because I heard an introvert is you lose energy talking to people. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true. And an extrovert is you gain energy. And I know some people and they're like, oh, I met so many people. I'm in such a good mood. And I'm like, I met so many people. I have to go sleep now for a couple days. Like it just sucks all my energy. But I do like the parties. Those are a little bit more enjoyable for me. And having Mark Passio, and I noticed that you do have like occultism as one of your taglines there. So you guys must know this, that I think Mark Passio used to have a conference. I think it was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was called the Free Your Mind Conference.
Yeah, so did he just stop doing that now?
I think him and just the people who were organizing it had some sort of like, philosophical disbeliefs, and they sort of disbanded. But it's so funny, Jeff, because we were talking to him about this at the dinner at Anarchapulco 2018, and me and Sonny were sitting with him, and we're like, we were asking him the same thing, and he was just like, I just hate the organization part. It's too much work, blah, blah, blah. And we were like, we pitched him. We were like, well, if somebody else organized the conference, would you be interested in speaking at it and stuff? And that was the first time we sort of like incepted the idea, and then years later it ended up becoming a reality. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah, that is great. It's funny how things can happen that way. And another reason to go to these conferences, right? Like you guys were just attending, and look, this sort of big business idea came out of it. And you just never know what's going to happen when you go to these things. So even though I'm, like I said, sort of an introvert, if I wasn't so passionate about what I do, I really wouldn't go to a lot of conferences and stuff. It's just like I'd rather just be home with my dogs and my kids, and maybe go out to the bar here every now and then or whatever. But I'm just not that kind of a person. But it really, there is definite benefits to going to these sort of things. You meet so many interesting people, and so some of the speakers you have, like a few of the ones that you might want to call sort of conspiracy theorists or occultists, Mark Passio, Max Egan, he's great. I see Lynn Albrecht will be there. She's goes to a lot of these now, which is great. I see my friends Dan Dix, Josh Sigurdsson, Kerry Wedler, Alternative Media, Larkin Rose, he's awesome. Amanda Rockwich, she's a great speaker. Luke Radowski, he's okay. Sterling Luhan, he's great. So a lot of great people on here. I could just keep going. Sasha Digg, I might even know he'll be there. I haven't seen him in a while. Benny Wills, okay. Chuck Williams, I haven't seen him in a while. Danny Sessom, yeah, that's great. So yeah, it just goes on and on. You got a great lineup.
Thanks.
We really, I mean, again, I feel like it sounds like we're pandering, but it really all kind of came out of Anarchapulco this year. I mean, the first year was when we kind of started conceiving of the notion of getting into this the anarchist business or whatever. But this year we kind of we almost every one of those speakers that you mentioned we met in person for the first time at your conference and just developed a relationship with them, and it was pretty easy to get them on board since we were already pretty much friends.
Yeah, it's the power.
Yeah, it's great.
It's the power of networking when you come to these things. And like, I just remember before I visited 18, I was just some guy sitting on my couch, like wishing that I could be involved in this. And there's probably somebody out there right now who's feeling the same thing. Who was always yelling at his friends and his parents, and everybody's telling him to shut up because nobody wants to hear it. But he has. That was my story, at least. And then you go to somewhere like this and you meet people who you can actually, build really foundational relationships on your values, and then even things like endeavors, businesses, and just stuff to help change your situation and have that ripple out and change the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that so often, and I totally see it too. I think all of our conferences could have like no speakers, and they'd still be a pretty good conference, right? As long as everyone showed up, because that's a big part of it, is just hanging around with fairly like-minded people. And of course, there's lots of disagreements on certain things, but in general, I hear it all the time. Someone will be like, "I just came from Wyoming. I can't even talk about this stuff with my friends or family," and it's so nice to just go anywhere and just sit down at any table, or just be passing by someone and just start chatting about, and you're already on the sort of the same page. So, that is a big reason. So for people out there, if you're kind of like a lonely anarchist and you're surrounded by status, that's a good reason to go. And now there's more and more conferences popping up all over the place. So if you're on the U.S. Northeast, here's a funny story. So I met Bo from the Fifth Column in person. I interviewed him on Anarchast a little while ago at Anarchavegas, and kind of getting these names screwed up sometimes. There's so many now. But he says to me, you should do one of these in the U.S. Southeast or something. I don't know where he lives, Appalachians or something like that. And I just looked at him. I said, "You should do one of these." Like, do I have to do all these things? And it's kind of funny because, a lot of people, this is sort of something I've noticed, is a lot of people kind of just assume or expect that other people should do these things. But it's really up to us to do it. So you guys are up there in the Northeast. You're like, let's do it. And by the looks of it, it's going to be great. Great amount of people. I'm sure it'll be really good. Anarchavegas, that was really good. Like, you guys were there. What did you think about Anarchavegas? I was really impressed.
I thought it was excellent. It was great. Yeah, it was really fun.
I was very impressed
really well
with everything.
Organized. Yeah, like the Ross Ulbricht party. There's so many great parties again. That was a good part for me as well. Just so well run and things like that. And so was Anarchazona, and so was Anarchaportugal. So you guys are like the next one to see if you guys run it really well. Of course, there's always going to be problems. Believe me, I know all about it. But I've been really impressed at just the events so far that I've been to, how well run they've been.
Yeah, I mean, when you got passion behind it, you just figure it out, whatever it takes. You know what I mean? That's how we are, at least.
Well, that was funny because the first Anarchapulco, I just lost all my money, and I got defrauded in a real estate deal and then a passport deal and all this kind of stuff. And Chris Cantwell, the lying, I was going to say lying Nazi, that too. The crying Nazi started the whole, I'm a passport scammer, but I got scammed as well. So I was like super depressed. So it was sort of like, okay, let's try this. I'm going to kill myself soon anyways. That was basically what I was thinking. And then when I saw only 40 people were going to show up, I'm like, all right, I'm hitting the bottle. I can't live another day like this. And I was so drunk that first year that everyone who showed up had to run the conference themselves. So talk about the exact opposite of what the other events were like. They were so well run. I'm in the back. I'm just drinking. Everyone's like, did he even get a microphone? And they found a microphone. They propped up a speaker on a stand, and they ran it themselves. There was a girl, I forget her name, Sarah. She became the MC. She was just an audience member. She just came to attend. Other people started running the AV media equipment. So that's another cool thing about our sort of people, you could say. I hate using the word movement, but I guess it is sort of a movement, I guess. But the people involved in what we're doing, they're all amazing people. Even in Anarchapulco, we get so many people just, do you need anything? Can I volunteer? Can I help with anything? Like, there's not many conferences that I don't think where so many people are like that.
No, definitely not. I mean, other than like the only conferences that I do know that are like that are conferences that in other realms that people are very passionate about, like Comic-Con or Dragon Con, like people who live for that kind of stuff. I was friends with someone who used to talk about volunteering at Dragon Con, like it was the holy grail. But again, when you're around people that you admire and I mean, it's really nice coming from a like-minded place. Like, at the end of the day, there might be some differences, but we all agree that, like, we shouldn't kill each other if we don't agree with the other one. Like, at the end of the day, we all agree that if my opinion differs from your opinion, like, when the gun comes out, that's who's wrong. So it just I guess it just engenders that kind of community.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? Like, all we really believe is don't attack and kill and steal from each other. And it's funny because other people don't know about people like ourselves. They're like, I heard anarchists, they're crazy. It's like, that's all we're saying. Like, just don't hurt anybody. And it's so weird that we have to, go to certain events just to be around people like that. That's how screwed up this world is today.
Yeah, it's wild, but at least we can provide that, because before these events, there was almost nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like, who would you tell? No one was listening.
Yeah, I forget who it was. Someone posted something. Oh, no, it was a speech. So I've been doing so many things. I forget who did the speech, but they're basically saying that... it was Mark Passio, actually. I was watching his most recent, whatever you call it, webcast. It was really good. I was getting ready for my speech at Freedom Fest, and I was just watching it. I was like, I wish I didn't have to go. This is so good. He's so good. I love Mark. And he was basically saying, yeah, like, just sitting on Facebook all day and arguing with people, that's not going to change anything, really. It's really getting out there and doing stuff a lot more. And that's really, for people out there, like, if you come to these events, you can get really inspired by other people and what they're doing. And just sitting there on your computer all the time and arguing with commies or whatever status is just, they're not going to listen. A lot of this stuff really needs to be kind of like more personable sort of stuff. It's amazing how people change from when they're on the internet writing YouTube comments to when you meet them in person. I've had thousands of death threats on the internet. I've never had one person even say anything bad to me in person. The whole dynamics change in person.
I agree. I really think that even these communists or leftists or liberal, whatever the label you want to put them on, I really think if they attended one of these events, their entire perspective would change. I mean, like again, I was called a Nazi for the first time recently, which I guess is a badge of honor these days. To just that means you have some sort of non-mainstream opinion. But
if you don't believe what they believe, then you're a Nazi. That's it.
And but my response was, I'm literally like the anti-Nazi. I believe that under no condition should the state or anyone else be violently imprisoning, hurting, coercing anyone. So how? But again, it was because I had an opinion that someone else. I think it was because I shared a lizard people meme, which was like a joke, and apparently that's like an anti-Semitic dog whistle or something, which I wasn't even aware of until this person called me a Nazi. But so I mean, it's just the point is, if they came to our conferences, at no point is there anyone being racist. I mean, there's all colors and creeds. There at no point is anyone being kind of closed-minded or exclusionary. I mean, there's really no bigotry at all I've seen in any conference like this. It's probably the most accepting place that I've ever been is Acapulco and Vegas and these other conferences, more so than the general public, community. So I really think we need to get more of them. And I was trying to invite some liberal-type journalists to come and attend, but so far none's taken me up on the offer.
Yeah, I saw Bo from the Fifth Column posted on Facebook that he had a bunch of people said because he went to Anarchavegas, he's a crypto-fascist. And I was like, what does that even mean? But again, people who don't really understand what we're talking about, they just kind of, they hear like, well, we're anarchists. Oh, we must like to throw bombs. It's like, oh, David Icke was there. They must believe in lizard people. Something like this. Oh, it must be a Nazi. Or even David Icke, they call a Nazi as well. But I was even trying to figure out, do you guys even know what that means, a crypto-fascist?
I think it means like I don't know, I'm assuming it means like a hidden fascist or an encoded fascist.
Oh, I thought they were talking about cryptocurrency.
No,
I'm like, Bitcoin fascist? I mean, I'm like, what does that even mean? Hidden fascist.
Yeah, I think that's what they mean. I think they mean crypto in more of its literal term.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense, but still, so we're fascists then.
Yes. We're fascists who want no
government.
government.
Of fascism. Yeah, isn't the definition of fascism when the big business and the governments sort of combine? Isn't that basically the definition? I don't know if you guys have a different one.
I know it's not. I know it's definitely not the dissolution of government, which is so I don't know. I'm not sure what the exact fascism definition is, but I definitely know it's not what I associate myself with, or either any of us.
Yeah, it's one cool thing about having an Acapulco is there's no of these really crazy Americans around there, right? So you have your conference there in the U.S. and there's tons of these Antifa and tons of these Proud Boys and they're all crazy as F, right? And like they live nearby. And so I heard for one of them, I think it was in Anarchavegas, that there was a rumor some Antifa might come and attack. And we're all like, we got guns, we know how to fight, come on. But we don't have to worry about that in Acapulco. Like the cartel guys, like they wouldn't get anywhere near us. Like the cartel guys got our backs. Like we're like, you guys just, all you do is supply plants to willing customers. And we're like, you're awesome. And they're like, tell us more about Bitcoin. We're like, yeah, no problem. So like that's one issue that you guys have to deal with in the U.S. And we should mention this: Anarchavegas had their first venue shut down because apparently the Las Vegas Police Department and the FBI, I believe, called the D Hotel in Las Vegas, which is where they're going to hold it, and said, "There's a speaker on your list who's a terrorist. We want you to shut this conference down." So they did, even though they had a contract. And that terrorist, by the way, is Larkin Rose.
Oh no!
Probably one of the most peaceful people in the world. So that is a bit of a, it is an issue for you guys that I don't have down in Mexico. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. No Antifa, no Proud Boys, no government, no cops. I don't have to worry about cops. Like cops, they wouldn't even come near us. Like even if I don't even know if there is cops anymore in Acapulco. It's like that in Acapulco. So those are some of the issues you might have to deal with. Have you had any of those sort of issues so far?
Nah, so far so good. We're kind of the venues that we're hosting and we're working with are very close friends. Like South Philadelphia in particular is sort of kind of like its own community, and it's sort of been homegrown for a very long time. So it's very close knit, and people have been pissed off and finding ways around the government for decades down here. So
yeah, we're trying to keep it we're trying to make it feel as not feel corporate, I guess. So we kind of even not thinking about the potential of the FBI shutting it down, we wanted to keep it away from the corporate suits that might have a problem with people smoking certain plants or living their life how they wanted to live it, and it's a little bit easier to do it when it's a family business that you have a little bit of a connection with. So that's what it's going to be. It's going to have a homey feel too, as well as the anarchist carnival vibe we're going for.
Yeah.
That's great. I have to say, I've been to Philadelphia. I was there performing Bitcoin all the way up in front of the Federal Reserve. I saw Mark Passio there when I was there. I like kind of the general vibe there. It's got that kind of like, we're hardworking people, we're together. Like it's got a community feeling. Like screw this, screw that.
Yeah, everyone hates the government here. No one ever says anything good about the mayor or the PPA or the parking authority or the housing authority or the pothole. I mean, it's just one long. My whole life's been one long complaint about the government. So I guess it's a little easier to sell it here.
That's great. So you mentioned you might change the venue if you get too many people coming, but where is the venue right now?
Well,
maybe we just stop selling tickets though.
Yeah, well, what I meant by change is we would expand the actual venue. We actually have additional rooms to expand into if we need to, kind of thing. So yeah, it's sort of like that. It's located in a nice little pocket in South Philly. It's kind of all centered around this giant park called FDR Park. It's like a huge nature park, and like right down the street from it is the hotel, and also right down the street from it is Galdos and Poppies, which are basically the two sort of like main areas where we're going to be holding the speakers, the carnivals, and the workshops. So it's all like very close, and there's a beautiful park for you to kind of like intermittent like visit if you ever need a break or you want some nature.
We have a map on Anarchadelphia.com. The actual venue is called Galdo's Entertainment Center, and it's a family-owned catering hall, but it's pretty big. It can accommodate a little over 500 people. Right across the street is a very nice restaurant that also has like catering spaces that we're going to be using for more like private workshops and things like that. And then right down the street is the skate park we keep talking about. We're going to have our closing ceremony / party. So it's it's all within like a mile of each other, and it's well, the two venues are across the street, and the park's about 3/4 of a mile away. But it's you can check out all the details on the website. We have a pretty detailed description of the area.
That's great. Actually, I think the last time I was in Philadelphia was, I think, a couple years ago, and I think it was in September. And I have to say, it was a beautiful time of the year to be there. I stayed right down by the river in some really nice hotel, and they had all these bars and restaurants and really cool people. I have to say, like I just ran into just talking to people and really good time. So if you haven't been to Philly, check it out because it's not too bad. I actually had this idea because I'm a hockey fan, right? That Philadelphia Flyers, they're like the brawlers from the '70s. They had a name for them, like the '70s Brawlers or something.
The Broad Street Bullies.
Broad Street Bullies, yeah. And I remember back then, it was like Bobby Clark. No one had teeth, and all they do is just beat people up, the hockey players, right? And you look in the crowd, and everyone would be like, oh, like, yeah. And, like, there were tough guys in the crowd. And I was like, man, that looks like a rough city. And then I went there, and I was sitting on the river, having a nice glass of wine, talking to cool people. So it wasn't what I expected, I have to say.
Well, you got a little bit of both. We're refined, but you'll find there's a couple toothless guys that like to fight that don't play for the Flyers that I know as well.
Yeah, I did go into some shadier parts of town. I did see a bit of that too, but it's nice. It has everything, so that's great. So for people who don't know, it's September 13th to 15th, Anarchadelphia. We mentioned the speakers before. You can get 10% off if you use the code Vigilante. And what is there anything else? We got a couple minutes here. Is there anything else you guys want to mention before we finish up?
Nah, just come and enjoy the fun, man. We're all set to do this, and it would be so sick if this evolved into like a worldwide thing, where me and you would see each other every 3 weeks in a new country as we're spreading this message. You know what I mean? That's the end game. That's all I want to leave it on. That's the ultimate vision. It's not just about our conference or this person's conference. It's about the general movement towards anarchy on Earth.
Yeah, come check out the community. Maybe you'll meet a couple friends. Maybe you'll stick around for a while.
Cool. Yeah, I actually have, when talking about this, and now there's a bunch of conferences popping up, I'm like, man, there might be one like every week soon. And like, I have no desire to be traveling nonstop going to anarchist conferences, but I'm so glad that they're popping up all the time. So I will try to attend if I'm invited to any of them, as many as I can. But if there's too many, at some point, I just I think one conference every 1 to 2 months is about my sweet spot right now. Even that Freedom Fest followed by Anarchavegas, that was almost too much for me. I was just exhausted by the end of it. But really glad that people are starting these up. So wish you guys luck. I think it's going to go well from what I've seen, and we'll put the links to it down below. Check it out, like I said, and if you can't make it there, definitely check out Anarchapulco, coming up February 13th to 16th in Acapulco, Mexico, and we'll leave it at that. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share down below, and that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
Anarchapulco, it's so hype, I'm trying to tell ya. This the event of the year and best vacation ever. Ron Potter, Jeffrey Tucker, just to name a few. Get your tickets, you don't want to miss it. You should roll through. Talking politics to health and self-improvement to invest in. So many things, not one thing. Learn how to live life unchained, yeah. 4 days vibing on the beach, time to connect. All about growth, way more than a conference. This is Anarchapulco, yeah. Let's go.
You ain't seen nothing yet.